Welcome to the Raconteur by Craig K. Collins. The Oxford English Dictionary defines a raconteur as the narrator of an anecdote or story, especially a person particularly skilled in this role. Here you'll find thoughtful, handcrafted prose, stunning photos, and insights into people, places, and cultures, mostly off the beaten path. This week's episode takes us to Pozzuoli, Italy, where I visited La Solfatara, which has been dubbed Europe's most dangerous volcano. I looked into the mouth of hell in Pozzuoli. As Europe's most dangerous volcano awakens, Italians shrug. "Please, signore e signora," our cab driver says, turning back to my partner Sonia and me, his eyes no longer on the road. "Roll your windows up here. The sulfur smell is about to get very bad." We quickly do as we're told, if only to get Paolo to turn his rather capricious attention forward as our taxi hurtles through the narrow, winding streets that lead from Naples, where we just landed, to the port city of Pozzuoli, some 12 miles from the airport on the eastern rim of the Gulf of Naples. Sulfur, I think? What sulfur? I'm about to ask Paolo, but I think better of it. The fewer distractions for him, the better. And then, in a weird and eerie bit of serendipity, perhaps aided and abetted by Google algorithms and location services, a headline from a just-published Washington Post article pops up on my phone. "Europe's most dangerous volcano rumbles, and Italians weigh the risk." The dateline reads, Pozzuoli, Italy. Uh-oh, I think. Paolo drops us off at the marina, where we are 4 hours early for our week-long catamaran tour of the Amalfi Coast. Pozzuoli is hot and semi-deserted beneath the mid-afternoon sun. Sonia and I look up and down the street as Paolo unloads our suitcases and hands them to the steward at the marina. We both wonder how we're going to kill time before our ship departs the port. "Is there anything interesting to do in Pozzuoli for a couple hours?" Sonia inquires of Paolo. "No," he declares with high-pitched animation. "All the shops are closed. Everyone go home. Too hot. You can't even get a gelato right now in town." Sonia frowns. "But," he says, gesticulating to the northeast, away from the port, "I take you to the Fumarole, the big hole where all the sulfur comes. I take you to the volcano, only 10 minutes. Everyone wants to see the volcano. It's big attraction." Volcano, I think? Fumarole? I haven't heard the word fumarole since my last visit to Yellowstone. "Sure, let's do it," I say, always up for walking into the mouth of a live volcano. "No," says Sonia, with a tone that means she's handed down a hard veto. "It's too hot." "Of course it's hot," I say. "It's a volcano." "You know what I mean," she says, knowing that I know what she means. "Let's just walk around town for a bit. We've got 4 hours to kill. Maybe some shops will open soon." I turn to Paolo and shrug. He shrugs back. The town of Pozzuoli was founded as a Greek colony in 500 BCE and later became a center of trade for Egyptian grain coming into what later became a Roman port. Pozzuoli's very name is volcanic, for pozzuolana is a type of fine volcanic ash found throughout the Gulf of Naples region. When mixed with lime, or calcium hydroxide, and water, it forms a type of concrete that was first developed by the ancient Greeks and perfected by the Romans. It was one of the secret ingredients upon which a great empire was built. Near the town center is the Macellum of Pozzuoli, an ancient Roman market that was excavated in the 1700s. In 1830, Scottish geologist Charles Lyell studied the columns of the Macellum and noticed that they were pockmarked where mollusks had been attached, even though the market was 200 yards from the bay and over a dozen feet above sea level. This enabled Lyell to develop the geological concept of bradyseism, in which underground magma can cause the ground to gradually rise and fall over years, decades, and centuries. And of course, for film buffs, Pozzuoli is where the great Italian actress Sophia Loren grew up. Pozzuoli is built atop a caldera known as the Phlegraean Fields. To get an idea of what the caldera here is capable of, Pozzuoli was the site 39,000 years ago of the largest volcanic eruption in Europe over the past 200,000 years, one that caused global temperatures to plunge and covered Eastern Europe in a deep blanket of ash. Some scientists believe that this event may have been so cataclysmic that it contributed to the demise of the Neanderthals. Scientists have also determined that the caldera beneath Pozzuoli shares the same magma chamber as Mount Vesuvius, 20 miles to the east. Over the past couple of years, volcanic activity at Pozzuoli has appeared to be surging, pushing upward by a lake of magma below. The ground here is elevating at a rate of about an inch a month, 1 foot per year. According to an Italian government geologist quoted in the Washington Post article, the Phlegraean volcano, located about a mile from the marina and amid houses and businesses, has the potential any day to, quote, go off like a bomb, obliterating the town and its 80,000 occupants, as well as much of Greater Naples and its 3 million people. One of the geologists is calling for evacuating at least 500,000 people from the potential blast area. Sonia and I walk from the marina to the town square in the heat and humidity of an August afternoon along the Gulf of Naples. We pass the Macellum, a large square, maybe 2 city blocks by 2 city blocks. The ancient ruins sit about 15 feet below street level, with several Roman columns sticking up to eye level. We are the only visitors at this hour, and the ruins look tired, forgotten, and forlorn, much like Pozzuoli itself. We walk down a narrow street of shops, most of which are closed, and all of which are bereft of customers at this hour. We then come to the town square. At one end is a pretty church from the 1600s, painted in ochre and pale yellow. Seated at benches in the shade of trees are old Italian men in quiet conversation. We then come to the only bustle this afternoon at the square, a small cafe where passers-by stop for a shot of espresso or cappuccino. There is no seating or takeout. You stand at the bar for a few minutes, drink your espresso, and then move on. Sonia ordered 2 iced coffees while I studied a 2-foot by 2-foot granite slab attached to the exterior wall to the right of the service area. It is clearly of Roman origin, likely picked up from one of the ruins around here. Chiseled in granite is the Latin word exitus, meaning exit, hence the name of this establishment, Cafe Exitus. Given the volcanic rumblings here of late, I wonder if the sign is a warning. Maybe it means there will soon be an exit from the mouth of hell. Or, ominously, we're soon about to exit this life aboard a pyroclastic blast into the stratosphere. The barista Maria hands me my iced coffee, thus interrupting my apocalyptic reverie. Grazie mille, I say. You're welcome, she says. I then come out with it. So, what do you think of the volcano? Maria becomes animated by my question. Her dark eyes widen and a big, white-toothed smile spreads across her face. She pulls out a notepad from behind the counter and starts drawing, explaining as she goes. This is the Bay of Napoli, she says in perfect English, sketching a C-shaped gulf. Napoli City is here. We are here, she says, marking X's. She then draws a large circle encompassing the bay, Napoli, and Pozzuoli. This is the caldera, she continues. It's like the big one at Yellowstone. It's huge, one of the biggest in the world. Underneath there's a sea of magma. Over the years, the magma goes up and it goes down. The ground you are standing on rises and falls. I am both impressed by the barista's geological expertise, and I'm also growing disconcerted. And around the caldera, a giant volcano, is a ring of smaller volcanoes. Maria draws nearly a dozen smaller circles around the large central circle. Over here is Vesuvius. She puts an X through a circle on the east side of the caldera. Vesuvius, of course, is maybe the most famous volcano in history. You know it, yes? Here is our volcano, the one causing us trouble right now. She puts another X on a circle on the opposite side of Vesuvius. I briefly study Maria's sketch before asking, "Aren't you worried living here?" Maria's fellow barista Donna has joined us and is listening in. Both answer, "No," in unison and laugh. Sometimes the sulfur smell gets bad, Maria says, but like today, the breeze is blowing in from the bay, so that helps. Last May we had 3 strong earthquakes, 4.2, 4.5, 4.1 magnitude. People got worried, and even a few evacuated. But I wasn't so worried. In July, we had 150 small earthquakes in one day. That was interesting. How long are you in Pozzuoli? If you stay a day or maybe 2, you are certain to enjoy some shaking, and will know what I mean. We're leaving on a boat in a couple hours, Sonia chimes in. Oh, Maria frowns, disappointed. Then maybe not, unless we have one soon, which is possible. I sip my iced coffee, which is extraordinarily good, and the perfect antidote for a sweltering summer afternoon in Pozzuoli, and ask Maria again, "Seriously? You're not just a little bit worried?" "No," she says calmly, perhaps sensing that I'm maybe a bit worried for her. "The last eruption here was in 1538. That was a long time ago." I don't have the heart to tell her that 5 centuries is a mere blink of an eye in geological time. But given her detailed knowledge of the subject, I suspect she already knows. We return to the Pozzuoli Marina after a week at sea aboard a catamaran, touring the Amalfi Coast and the islands in the Gulf of Naples. I'm eager to visit the volcano, whose potential for apocalyptic doom now hangs over the town like the sword of Damocles. We ask our taxi driver, Allegra, whose teen son Mario is accompanying her on her rounds, if she can stop at the volcano on our way into Naples. Allegra speaks no English and shakes her head, unable to understand our request. But Mario immediately declares, "La Solfatara," and points the way. We rattle our way up narrow, winding, uneven streets, packed on each side with houses and apartments. On our way up the hill, gaps in the buildings provide us with momentary, majestic views of the Gulf of Naples. We pass a school and soccer fields, just as rank whiffs of sulfur fill the taxi. "Solfatara," Mario explains as Sonia scrunches her nose and waves her hand in front of her face in a futile attempt to ward off toxic fumes. We come over a rise and there it is, La Solfatara, a hole in a hilltop about a quarter mile in diameter and 100 feet deep. The crater's northern sides are scalded white with yellow streaks of sulfur. Fumaroles, volcanic steam vents, belch from deep within the earth, with a steady flow of sulfuric gases. Mud pots burble and boil on the flat crater floor. Allegra pulls to the side of the narrow road cut into the west side of the crater. Mario hops out, slides open the taxi van side door, and as Sonia and I step out, gives a grand gesture, a sweeping wave toward the crater, and declares, "La Solfatara." I ask Mario if we can hike down into the crater for a closer look. "No, no," he says in an adamant voice. "Non è consentito." I later discovered that until 2017, tourists were allowed to walk into the crater atop a boardwalk. But that year, as a family traversed the walkway, an 11-year-old boy slipped into a crevasse. His parents attempted to rescue their child, but they too perished in one of La Solfatara's blistering, gaseous vents. As tragic as the family's demise was, La Solfatara has been the site of many deaths over the millennia. The Romans called this crater the mouth of hell and believed it was the home of Vulcan, the god of fire. Vulcan was often depicted laboring amid underground ovens as a blacksmith, which is why Satan is often associated with the smell of sulfur in the Catholic Church. The name Solfatara is a portmanteau, a melding of two words, of the Latin sulfa, for sulfur, and terra, for earth. The most infamous deaths here happened in 305 CE, during the Great Persecution, the Roman Empire's last gasp effort to stamp out the rapidly expanding Christian faith. That's when evangelists Proculus and Januarius, who would later become the patron saints of Pozzuoli and Naples, respectively, were beheaded at La Solfatara, along with several of their followers. I took some photos of La Solfatara, including one of Mario standing confident and bold as the crater belched sulfuric vapors behind him. I asked Mario, whose English is limited, if he fears the volcano. Once he understood my question, he squinched his face and with teenage defiance that knows no fear, said loudly, "No, no, no," as if it were a ridiculous thing to ask. He then sweeps his hand at La Solfatara and continues in rapid-fire Italian. I understand maybe every fourth or fifth word, but between his tone and dramatic gestures, I certainly get the gist of what he's telling me, which goes something like, "The volcano's been here a long time. We're neighbors. I've lived here my whole life, and I'm not going anywhere. Afraid? Poof!" The following day, Sonia and I climbed the white, worn marble steps of the Naples Cathedral in the heat of a late August sun before stepping into the cool of the church and beholding the dazzling beauty of one of Europe's great edifices. It is a masterpiece of Baroque architecture dedicated to San Gennaro, as the Neapolitans call their patron saint, or Saint Januarius, as his Roman followers called him, after his beheading at La Solfatara. At the entrance to the chapel of San Gennaro, located to the side of the main cathedral, I dip my fingers in a font of holy water and cross myself. I'm no longer a practicing Catholic, but old habits die hard. I admire the chapel's intricately carved altar and study the massive painting in the chapel's side niche that depicts the martyrdom of Saints Proculus and Januarius at the hands of the Romans. The Romans celebrated their god Vulcan in the late August heat near the end of summer. At this time, the threat of fire was at its peak. To appease this god, Romans lit bonfires during the feast of Vulcanalia, into which they tossed fish or small animals. Instead, I lit a candle and offered a few euros in the chapel of San Gennaro, before again dipping my fingers in holy water, crossing myself, and kneeling in prayer in the adjacent pew. Having grown up in the Catholic Church, I feel comfortable here, solemn and serene. The familiar scent of lit wax candles, the reverent murmur of parishioners, and the soft echo of steps on marble floors bring me back to a time when I truly believed. I close my eyes, clear my mind, and pray. I ask St. Januarius to calm the volcano at Pozzuoli and see that the danger passes. I pray for the safety of the people there and for my new Pozzuolian acquaintances, Paolo, Donna, Maria, Allegra, and Mario. Afterward, I step out of the cool dim of the great cathedral into the jarring glare of the summer sun reflecting off the white marble steps. The late August heat is oppressive, the same heat that drove the Romans to make offerings to their god Vulcan. I reflect on the prayer I have just given, knowing that it is a small gesture and likely futile in the face of the geological forces now surging beneath this region. But with so many here in both danger and denial, sometimes prayer is all we have to offer. And in the end, what will be, will be.